More restrictive voter ID laws does not result in greater election security, and I have the data to prove it. Every state is responsible for establishing their own laws and overseeing the election process within their state. So that means it's going to be easier to vote in some places and harder to vote in others. A cost of voting, if you will. So anyway, this got me thinking more about the Save America Act and what it actually does. If the thought is that requiring a birth certificate or a passport in order to vote will result in more secure elections, then it follows that places where that's not a requirement, we can expect less secure elections and more rampant voter fraud. So to test this theory, I decided to take the 10 most accessible states and the 10 most restrictive states and drop them in a spreadsheet. Now, in order to find the correlation between restrictive voting laws and greater election security, I needed to find the frequency of election fraud in my data samples. And the best way to do that was to go to the people who care about it most, the Heritage Foundation. Yes, the conservative think tank that brought you Project 2025. They've been keeping a whole database that spans back 40 years. I figured I'd start there. Some of the results were light on details, sources with broken links, but I took the results at face value and dropped them in a spreadsheet. I decided to pull election data as far back as I could find, and thanks to the election lab from the University of Florida, they had data dating back to the 2010 midterm elections. So I took that all the way up to 2024. I cross-referenced this information I was able to pull there along with Heritage Foundation's database and put together a side-by-side comparison of the 10 easiest states to vote in and the 10 most difficult. And I was finally starting to see a correlation, just not between voting laws and election security. The fraud cases in the 10 most accessible and the 10 most restrictive were virtually the same, with 0.0001% being overall cases. But restrictive voting laws appear to have the biggest impact on voter turnout. The national average for voter turnout in presidential elections is about 60%, and all but one of the 10 most accessible states reached or exceeded that average. But in the 10 most restrictive, only 5 were able to reach the national average. Also, for no reason at all, I noted how many presidential elections a Republican swept in the 10 most restrictive states versus the 10 most accessible. Interesting. So peep how many felons were ineligible to vote in these states in any given election year. So what have we learned? Voter fraud is extremely rare, and restrictive voter ID laws appear to have no impact on voter fraud cases. But the data suggests that the easier it is to vote, the higher the voter turnout, and the more difficult it is to vote, the lower the voter turnout. Voter participation is a necessary component in our democratic process, and I would argue the best way to ensure greater election integrity is to make it easier to vote and make sure everyone who is eligible can participate. For one, I think it would make results more undeniable, but then also I think it would create a self-reinforcing loop that encourages more people to participate because of the confidence that they have that their vote matters and that it counts. But if you can't win an election when everyone participates, then just say that.